When I first started my daycare and was envisioning my new life as a daycare provider, I was so excited to be there for all the milestones of my oldest daughter, who was my only at the time. But what I never really predicted was just how difficult daycare can be on your own children. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video, how difficult it can be and things you can do to help with that. Hey guys, Sarah here from Work Life Glue, back with another Daycare Day video where every Friday I talk about daycare because I am a daycare provider in my home to 10 kids, including 2 of my own, my 3-year-old and my currently 7-month-old. So today I'm going to be talking about daycare with your own children and how it can be and things you can do to really help with that. And if you happen to hear some crazy weather in this video, I apologize. It's Minnesota and it's the middle of April when I'm filming this and we're having like a sleet storm. So it's my filming day though, so gonna roll with it. So just to give you guys a little perspective on where I'm coming from, my oldest daughter is currently a little over 3. And I started my daycare when she was just 10 months old. And before that, I had been a nanny. So she had been used to being with me and at least one other child since she was a couple months old. And now I also have a 7-month-old daughter. So we have 2 kids, both in my daycare full time. So before I opened up my daycare, you know, I'd hear here and there about providers whose kids would act up, but I didn't really think much of it. And I knew, you know, at the heart of it all, I want to be with my kids regardless of how difficult it can be. But now that my oldest is older, she's definitely a very strong-willed child. I mean that in both good and bad ways. I know it will be a good thing long term, but right now it's a very difficult time. Basically since she was about 18 months old, I would say it's been pretty difficult. And there are a lot of things and ways that kids can act out during daycare, and I definitely notice a difference in my oldest when it's daycare hours compared to when it's not. During daycare hours, I see, you know, not listening, not being the nicest to kids, taking toys, sometimes hitting, pushing, screaming, being like bossy or like trying to demand things of the kids, thinking she's like the boss like I am. And I haven't dealt with these, but like pulling hair, biting, I've heard as issues that providers' children deal with. Telling their parents they hate the daycare, saying they hate their friends, and just, you know, general ways that little kids can act out when they feel upset about something. Those are all things that come into play. Now, these are all like kind of normal kid behaviors, but when you're trying to do your job and it's not how your kid normally acts and it's getting in the way of your job, it can make it really, really frustrating. I've had people say to me like, just wait until they're teenagers, which I get, teenagers have like their own issues. However, when they're at school, you're not dealing with them, and when they're little, they're in your day all the time and you're trying to do your job, and it can be really, really difficult when your kid is the one who's making your job really difficult. So I'm going to talk about a few things. I still am definitely struggling with this. You know, my 3-year-old, I love her. She loves her daycare friends, but I think from a kid's perspective, you know, every kid is different, but they're sharing their home. Even though we have a separate area, it's still her home. They're sharing toys that they see as their own. Even if you have separate toys for them, it's in their house, so they think it's theirs. They're sharing their mom, which is really hard. And they just, my daughter, I think, really likes to have her space, and it can be hard when there's all these kids in her space. And, you know, they're not very good at telling you what they need. Sometimes they don't even know what they need. They're not very good about using their words. They're impulsive. They have very little self-control skills. It's all things we're working on, but it becomes very like exacerbated when there's all these other kids around sharing all their stuff. And so it can be really difficult. So it's helpful to think of it from their perspective. Obviously, you're not going to allow these things, but it helps you to pick your battles and to have some empathy when you're coming up with a plan of how to work through these things. So one thing I really try to do is to make it a point to spend special time with my daughter. And I'm sure I will do this as well with my youngest once she's older. She's only 7 months right now. I mean, I nurse her all the time, so I guess that's special time, but she doesn't really require that yet. But my oldest, what I do personally is I lay all the other kids down for a nap, and then, because she sleeps in her room still, so then I'll lay all the other kids down in this room or wherever they sleep, and then I'll take her up to her room. We'll read a story or two. I'll sing to her, and just kind of like love on her and make her feel special, ask her about the day and that kind of thing. And I think that really helps fill up her cup so she knows she's loved. She knows she's still my number one, because I think it could be hard. She might feel jealous that maybe I love the other kids more, and I do love the other kids, but you know, as her mom, of course she's more important to me. So I try to like just have that special time so she feels loved. If it doesn't work to lay the other kids down, you could do this time right when they wake up in the morning before the other kids get there. Maybe at the end of nap, wake up your child earlier, 10-15 minutes, and spend that special time with them. Or maybe after all the kids leave, you go for a walk, or you go up to their room and have special time with them, or maybe before bed. Just really try to build in that time. I think it's so crucial to start from a place of being full in that area, so you're not having like their cup is empty and you're trying to deal with all these issues on top of it. Another thing I try to do is take time off with my children, have special time with them outside of the home. And I really make sure, now that my daughter's 3, I try to explain to her, Mama needs to do daycare to make money, and I love spending time with you and your friends, but it's really important to me that we have time together. So Mama closed the daycare today so we could go to the Children's Museum or whatever it is. And we go have fun experiences outside of daycare on a daycare day. I just think the weekends are great too, but if you really can explain to your older little child that you're, you know, purposefully taking time away from the daycare to be with them, that really makes them feel special. And you could do this by on one of your closed days for your holidays. Hire a sub and go do it, whatever it takes, but I think every once in a while having these times is really important. Another thing you can do every day is allow your child to be your special helper. Now, I've talked about line leaders before, I'll link that in the description below, but when it comes to things like passing out plates or, you know, cleaning up or helping with the babies or things like that, helping with diaper changes, you can have your child help without them actually helping. Even like diaper changes, they could just hand you the wipes container or get you a diaper or something like that, and they feel like they're helping. And help your child feel this sense of significance so they feel like they are involved, because especially for my daughter, she feels like she's the boss. So I try to give her ways to be in charge without actually being in charge, so she feels like she is, but then she doesn't feel the need to like scream at the children to be quiet or stuff like that, because she's helping me in other ways. And it just makes them feel really good and helps them learn responsibility at the same time. Another big thing, which seems counterintuitive, but is to spend time apart. If you're like me and you're with your own children 24/7, you can kind of end up doing this. I know for me personally, I'm a very type A controlling person when it comes to my life, and I try to control my children. And my daughter's also type A controlling. She's a mini-me, so when we spend all our time together, we end up doing this, and it becomes very hard to pick our battles. We end up arguing and getting in these power struggles over things that just don't even matter and aren't that important. And sometimes it's just because we're around each other too much. And so if you can sign your child up for like dance classes or sport classes or music lessons or something during or after daycare hours, that they can go be away from you and listening to somebody else and knowing that you're not the only one who has rules. And it just gives you time to breathe and like reflect. And then when you are together, you're more appreciative of that time. Also, if you can get your kid to maybe do preschool, I'm going to be doing preschool outside of the home. She's going to take a bus there 3 days a week in the mornings coming up this fall. Not because she needs the knowledge, but because I need a break, she needs a break, and it's good for them to learn social skills and listening from other people instead of just you all the time. This can be a really good thing, and I'm looking forward to it because we really do need that break. It'd be about 9 hours a week she'll be away from me, not that long, but just enough time where I can just do my job and she can go have fun and learn, and we're not pushing each other's buttons all day. I've heard of people actually doing daycare swap, where maybe a couple days a week another daycare provider will send their child to you and you'll send your child to them, and so you still have your full numbers. You're not out any money because you're just swapping, but you get some time away from each other, and it's really nice. Another thing you can do during the day is separate your child if you have the space to do it. When my daughter is becoming overwhelmed, I have a little bench a little bit away from the daycare where it's gated off that she goes. If she hits another child, she goes there, or if she's just overwhelmed and wants to play alone, I send her there. If I had more space, you know, or if I was close to her bedroom, I'd have her go there, but it's too far away. But if you can just find a way to separate them, not necessarily as a punishment, but just to allow them to breathe and to not have to be surrounded by the other kids, that can be really helpful. And then talk about the benefits of you staying home with your kids. Obviously, when they're little, it's hard for them to grasp, and they see like their dad or whoever going to work, but they don't think you actually work. But tell them you do. Tell them the parents pay money to you to watch their kids, and if you didn't do that, you would have to go work outside the home and they wouldn't see you. And I think the more you can like get that through their head, the more appreciative they'll be eventually, but it is hard because they're little and they don't quite get it. And then lastly, come up with ideas together. I think especially if you have a strong-willed child, they want to be in control. So find out what they think would help them to not get so upset, or what they could do when they're feeling upset. Read books about it, talk about it. Maybe they have a really good idea that you never would have thought of. Like, my daughter just wants her pillow around, so that stays on the bench. I don't let her bring it into the daycare space, but that's her comfort item. And so she can run and go lay with her comfort item on that bench, separated, whenever she needs to calm down. And it really helps her when she's feeling upset to go there and do that. And that was her idea. It was not something I came up with. So talk to your child if they're old enough and ask them what you think would help, and try different things. Try out different things. You just never know what might work for your child. I can't come up with every idea because every situation is different and every kid has different feelings about it, but I know it could be a struggle, so ask them what might work for them. So I wish you guys luck. I hope this video helped you. If you have other ideas of things you can do to help your own children during daycare time, so it's not so difficult for them and to have a better, more pleasant environment, leave them in the comments below. I just like to start the conversation, but let's keep it going in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye guys.